Hello again, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of Fantasy Warfare Tournament. My name is Shawn, coming to you from London, Ontario. It is 6 p.m. Wednesday evening, and we're back with another bracket of 16. As suggested by Stephen O'Neill last week, we are going to do the 16 greatest NWA WCW television champions of all time. There's an extensive list that is there. It's available on Wikipedia. And that's where we're getting a lot of our start and end dates from. But to be able to break down our tournament, we need to bring in our panel, which includes Stephen O'Neill in Toronto. How are you, Stephen?
Good. It's a cold Wednesday, I guess. Yes. I'm just pre-guessing what the weather is going to be like. I mean, it's cold, so just like
we are recording it on a Monday, but people are only available to watch this on Wednesday at 6.
That's fine. It's cold out like my heart.
Down.
Well, I know I have something to say. Hey, handsome fetus, fuck you.
That was Festus.
Oh, handsome Festus, fuck you.
Yes, if people joined us Thursday for our Scumbags of Wrestling podcast that you can get at 8 o'clock on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, you'll know what that was about. Another person
Tune in on Thursday for another Stephen Going Mental.
Nice to look forward to. Let's add the third member of our panel, and that is Jonesy in Niagara Falls. How are things with you?
That happened to be my high school nickname was Festus Fetus. So I don't know why you're mad at me, but hey, that's okay. I'm doing fantastic. It's a great day in the falls. It's nice and cold outside, which will kill some of the bugs. So this summer won't be as crazy with flying little bugs, though I am disappointed we never got those murder hornets. I was kind of hoping, I was praying for murder hornets. I'd rather murder hornets over COVID. So,
yeah, we never got any of that, and no locusts or any other signs of the apocalypse during this whole lockdown of COVID.
Not yet.
Not yet. That's yet to come. We're still deep in this whole thing. So, yeah. Guys, as we said, we're going to break down the 16 greatest NWA WCW television champions. Thank you for joining us on YouTube and Facebook every time, and also it's available audio wise on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and everywhere else you get your podcasts from. But we're going to break down the brackets. We need to still see who's in it. So back in just a second with Steve's breakdown.
So, as you saw in the video, the bracket, which is very interesting how some of these broke out. It's Sting versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Handsome Jimmy Valentine versus Nikita Koloff, Ivan Koloff versus Johnny B. Bad, Tully Blanchard versus Stunning Steve Austin, the Captain Mike Rotundo versus Baron Von Raschke, Dusty Rhodes versus Lord Steven Regal, Booker T versus Paul Jones. The Nature Boy Ric Flair versus the Enforcer Arn Anderson.
I love how the randomizer does it on Bracket HQ, which we use to create these brackets. A couple of dream matches, I would say, if they were ever to happen. Some matches did happen in real life in WCW. And what I noticed, just breaking some of these down, it's like some of these guys were in one chunk and disappeared from the scene. Got in another chunk and another chunk. And it's almost though they did the TV title deal and then moved on to U.S. title and in some cases world title. And that's why they weren't appearing a lot of times. Steamboat was about the only one who was in one chunk and then appeared later on. So your thoughts on this before we break it down?
I'm excited. I mean, if anyone follows us regularly on Fantasy Warfare or Scumbags, they know I'm a huge NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, early WCW junkie. So I think after crowning the greatest mid-card champion, I think this is right there as well. Usually in NWA, you went through, became a TV champion before you moved on to US or World. So that's why you see guys like Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Sting, guys that you wouldn't necessarily think of who have held the even Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, guys you wouldn't have thought of that would have held the TV championship. But
yeah, so Jonesy, your thoughts before we get on to match number one?
Well, I agree with you, Shawn. The only other one that would be in that chunk is Arn Anderson. Anderson, first time he held it was '86, and then he held it in the early '90s, and then again in '95. So he was around a lot, holding that right along with Steamboat.
Yeah, a little bit of old faithful, so you could rely on and go back to the well with. But we're going to start off with matchup number one, and that is the man called Sting taking on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Looking back at the list for Wikipedia, I only found actually one title reign for Sting, and that was March 31st, 1989. He held it for 114 days. He won it from Mike Rotunda and had to vacate it after a controversial match with the Great Muta. And then later on, of course, he moved up the ladder, as Stephen pointed out, and he was being put over by Ric Flair in Clash of Champions and stuff like that, and made it to being world champion and U.S. champion and tagging with Lex Luger. So he only had one time with the TV title. He's taking on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and Ricky Steamboat held it 4 times in total. His first one was June 15th, 1977. So I was barely a year old when that happened. He held it for 119 days, won it from Ric Flair, and lost it to Baron von Raschke. Then his second title reign didn't happen until June 10th, 1979, almost 2 years later from the first reign, 136 days. Won it from Paul Jones, but vacated it after winning the tag team titles with Jay Youngblood. His third title reign then came in the 1990s. So a huge gap in between, about 13 years, a little over 13 years, when September 2nd, 1992, he held it for 270 days after beating stunning Steve Austin and losing it to Scott Steiner, all before he became Big Papa Pump. And his fourth title reign was August 18th, 1993, only holding it for 32 days. And he won it from Paul Orndorff and lost it to Steven Regal. So those are the 5 title reigns between these two. And while Sting had a lot better things coming after his title reign and didn't have to have multiple reigns, Steamboat held it for a lot of times, 119 days, 136, 270 days, and then the 34 days, so a month. I got to go with Ricky Steamboat in this case. Steven, what's your call?
It's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I mean, 4 times he held it for 314 days. Sting, I mean, Hal held it for 114, but he moved up the card pretty quick. So to me, it's Ricky the Dragon.
Yeah, Ricky the Dragon gets one from me. Hot potato doesn't bother me too much with this belt because it's a TV belt. It's one of those belts that it's supposed to be up every time that your television event, including Saturday night. And the fact that it doesn't, some of these guys, they held the world title and then they went back to holding the TV title because the TV title was the important one for TV. Plus, you knew you were going to get at least a 15-minute match in most cases. Left a lot of freedom in the bookers of how they're going to book it because you could have ties all the time and people weren't going to bitch because, hey, that's the TV title. So even though Sting held it for 114 days and kind of a little more than that because of the whole Muda thing, it was held up. So though he's technically not still the champion, he was the last champion. So to me, he held it for more than 114 days.
So we move on to matchup number 2, Jimmy Valiant taking on the Russian Nightmare, Nikita Koloff.
So Jimmy Valiant, he wins it January 2nd, 1982 from Ivan Koloff. He holds it for 260 days, losing it to Joe's LeDuc. His next title reign, November 24th, 1993. He holds it for about 30 days before he basically vacates it because he dropped the Charlie Brown name and title. Holds it, so 2 reigns for a total of 290-ish days. He's taken on the Russian Nightmare, Nikita Koloff. He holds it once. He wins it August 17th of 87 in a unifying match, the UWF versus the TV title versus the NWA WCW TV title. He beats Tully Blanchard for that, and he loses it to Mike Rotunda. Holds it for 87 days. I also think he got hurt. I think this is when he started with his neck injuries in and around this time as well. Jimmy Valiant, I mean, what can you say about him? He was definitely a character. I went with Nikita Koloff. I just think he brought something to that title that was definitely missing. Also, he was feuding at that time with the Horsemen when he beat Tully Blanchard for the title. So he was definitely in that upper mid card. So I went with Nikita Koloff.
There we go, Jonesy.
Well, if you went with Jimmy Valiant, I would have gone with Nikita Koloff. But now since you went with Nikita Koloff, I'm going to have to go with Jimmy Valiant. Because really, for me, it was 50-50 between the two. Because Nikita Koloff is great. I'd rather him over Jimmy Valiant. Doesn't matter what title he held. It looked good on him. Plus, he held it for a good amount of days. So I'm going to give a pity vote to Jimmy Valiant there. To see if, Shawn, you decide the tie.
So I get to be the tiebreaker. Well, I was going with Nikita Koloff, the Russian Nightmare. So he is going to advance with a 2-1 victory over Jimmy Valiant. Yeah, I just enjoyed Koloff more. I really didn't get to see much of Jimmy Valiant anyways. But yeah, Koloff for sure. Which moves us on to matchup number 3. The other Koloff in this, Ivan Koloff, taking on Johnny B. Bad. You don't want to make him mad.
And just before I continue with this, let everyone know that Koloff beer will be coming soon. And don't forget to look in your local supermarkets for this delicious beer produced by, of course, none other than Ivan Koloff's family. Enough about that. Don't Google it. Ivan Koloff, he's 6'1", 298 pounds. His career, he started in 61 and he ended in 2013. Koloff, born real Donald Perez, August 24th, 1942. And he passed away, unfortunately, February 18th, 2017. He was a Canadian professional wrestler, best known for once holding the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. He was known as the Russian Bear. He was actually the second guy to hold the title. And May 10th, 74 is when he won that. He held it for 59 days. He won it from Danny Miller and dropped it to Paul Jones, no relation to me. August 24th, 1974 is his next title reign. He held it for 108 days and is hot potatoed from Jones to Jones, but a good long hot potato. Third, 81 is his last title reign of belt, 60 days, and he won it from Ron Bass. I'm not sure if he was rugged at that time, and Jimmy Valiant is who he lost it to. He got a total of 3 times he held it at 208 days. Now over to Johnny B. Bad, 235 pounds, debuted 1990, and he retired 2006. Being the Little Richard of the WCW, the man with the glitter, Johnny B. Bad. He had success as a popular fan favorite in WCW. It was scary popular, the fact of how ridiculous he kind of looked, but he could back it up with his wrestling skills to give legitimacy to the over-the-top Rainbow Lovin' cartoon-like character he was. He would capture the TV title 3 times before leaving for the WWF, where he never regained his popularity. September 18th, 1994 was the first time. He won it from Regal, held it for 112 days, and then he lost it to Anderson. Competitors there. August 29th, 1995 is his second reign, 111 days from Page to Luger. So he won it from Page, lost it to Loogie. And February 18th, 1996, he hot potatoed it with Luger, held it for 17 days. His total, which I didn't total up on my board, is a little bit more than Ivan Koloff. I seen more of Johnny B. Bad, Ivan Koloff. If this was a match versus match, I'd say Ivan Koloff would rip his face off. But talking about the TV title, and he looked good with the TV title. He could wrestle anyone. I'd much rather him as Johnny B. Bad. She would have done something like that in WWF once the Merrill thing didn't work. So I give it to Johnny B. Bad. I think he's the better wrestler, and again, he's just better to hold the TV title in my mind, especially in the world of WCW.
Yeah, my vote also was going to Johnny B. Bad. Just a lot of different time and era between these competitors, and when Johnny B. Bad held it, it was more family friendly and poppy type deal, but it worked for the amount of TV that they were doing with Power Hour, Saturday Night. Nitro hadn't started yet, but all the Clash of Champions and all the pay-per-views. Johnny B. Bad was the guy who was pretty much opening every one of these events, whether he was competing for the TV title or not. You know, and so he was a good person to have that belt on. Really can't say the same thing at the same time for Ivan Koloff, and I didn't see Ivan Koloff either. doing his. So I am going also Johnny B. Bad. How are you voting, Steven?
Oh, I went Johnny B. Bad. I love Johnny B. Bad. I think Johnny B. Bad was just that character. I think he never got the. We never, I don't believe, saw what that character could have been in WCW. He was kind of pigeonholed, eventually just being in where he is. So, yeah, I went Johnny B. Bad. Sorry, I'm just getting some bad news. So,
okay. I'm sorry. Just to
bad news for Wednesday.
Johnny B. Bad is that he did get pigeonholed there. He was really cartoony, and just everything that went on with Johnny B. Bad. Vince McMahon loved the character, I guess, when he saw him and wanted to hire him immediately. And when he brought him in for the interview, he realized he couldn't really do Johnny B. Bad because of it being trademarked to WCW. And then, of course, Rena was with him, and all they saw was Sable over Mark Marrow. And we saw what happened there. But Johnny B. Bad was a good character. And as pointed out, he was a person that could start any pay-per-view. Are we still good, Steven, to carry on with this round? Or
yeah, I got some news, but I can't do anything right now, so we can just keep going.
Okay, if you're sure. We will move on to then matchup number 4, and that is Tully Blanchard taking on Stunning Steve Austin. This would be an amazing match if it would ever happen because of the type of styles that they had. Steve Austin was a technician at that time. Before he got dropped on his head accidentally by Owen Hart, he was more of that technician. That's why he was the ringmaster and all that other stuff. But he had to adapt and become a brawler. But in WCW, he was the technician and Stunning Steve. I loved him there as well as coming to WWE. But we look at Tully Blanchard, and he has 3 title reigns. March 28th, 1984 was his first one. He held it for 353 days, and he won it from Mark Youngblood and lost it to Dusty Rhodes. His second title reign was April 28th, 1985, held it only for 69 days, and won it from Dusty, but dropped it back again to Dusty. So they were in a heated battle when Dusty was battling the Four Horsemen. There's probably around the same time as them leading to War Games and the Superpowers against the Four Horsemen. His third title reign was November 27th, 1986, and he held it for 263 days and won it from Dusty and lost it to Nikita. And so, yeah, that's well over 600 days right there through all those title reigns. And then we look over at Steve Austin, and Austin actually only had 2 title reigns. And that was the first one was June 3rd, 1991. He held it for 329 days. So I was up there with one of Tully's reigns. He won it from Bobby Eaton and lost it to Barry Windham. His second title reign for the TV title was May 23rd, 1992. Held it for 182 days and won it from Barry Windham and lost to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. So looking at there's a lot of similarities. He's 500 plus days to Tully's almost 600 days. But I think Tully's as much as he was, I guess he was more in battle with the Four Horsemen instead. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with Tully Blanchard over Steve Austin. Much as I am a Austin fan.
I mean, both of these were amazing TV champions, but Tully's Tully. I don't think Austin got to do what he probably should have been able to with that. I mean, held it for 432 days. Tully held it for 685 days, which is insanity. I mean, you can tell before Hot Potato started, they didn't really ever play Hot Potato with the TV Championship much. A little bit, but very rarely there's a lot of hot potatoing. So I'm going Tully.
And Jonesy.
Well, it really doesn't matter what I think now, but I don't know. I haven't really made my decision on it. More likely, Tully would be the one I'd have to go to in the end. But Steve Austin, I really liked him with that TV belt. It suited him. And they didn't give him much more than that in WCW. Tag belts, yes, but that was, not much. But yeah, Tully Blanchard would get my vote eventually.
So 3-0 for Tully Blanchard over stunning Steve Austin. As I said, it would be a really good matchup either way. So we're going to move on to the next match.
I am getting interference. I can hear like a TV program in the background.
Yeah, somebody's volume is on. Mike Rotunda against Baron Von Raschke.
Okay, so we got Mike Rotunda. First out reign, wins it December 25th of 82. He won it from Bad Leroy Brown, held it for 59 days before losing it to Dick Slater. He then wins it January 26th of 87, holds it for 335 days. He beat Koloff for it, losing it to Rick Steiner. His third and final reign, he wins it back from Rick Steiner February 20th of 89, holds it for 39 days, losing it to Sting. So 3 reigns for 401 days. Baron Von Raschke, first title reign, October 12th of 77. He holds it for 144 days before he loses it. He beat Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, loses it to Johnny Weaver. He then, March 26th of 78, he beats Johnny Weaver again for it, holds it for 73 days, losing it to Paul Jones. He held it 2 times for 217 days. Jones put a little note here, competed in many legit wrestling competitions, including the 62 World Games. He won a bronze medal. He was on the 64 Olympic team qualifier. I'm going Mike Rotunda. Baron Von Raschke, great wrestler. I just think it's yeah, I don't know. I think of Mike Rotunda with the TV title. So
Jonesy.
This will be boring for Shawn because Mike Rotunda gets it for me. I mean, look at the people that he beat and lost. These were tough friggin' guys. Von Raschke, his opponents. I think Johnny Weaver was a pretty tough guy, but Steamboat, that's a different type of toughness he is. He's not going to, smash your face in with just some good clubs. It's Mike Rotunda.
Yeah, it's a clean sweep for Captain Mike before he started doing taxes on everybody and started doing that. But the captain is going to take this one. And for me, Baron von Raschke, I only imagine him with the AWA. I only saw him there when he was at that point, and the only other time I saw him was for like the 3 weeks that he managed Powers of Pain in WWF. But beyond that, yeah. So Baron von Raschke, unfortunately, is gone, and Mike Rotunda will move on, and he will go against the winner of this one, Dusty Rhodes versus Lord Steven Regal. Jonesy.
And don't forget that your taxes, most places will have your taxes ready now, so you can start checking. And I'm so glad that Rotunda switched to IRS, because you know what? That was a learning thing. In my brain, taxes, I ain't cheating on, and I've always done good on my taxes. Anyways, back to reality. Dusty Rhodes, he was 6'2", 275 pounds. He debuted in 67 and retired in 2010. He didn't retire from the microphone. The son of a plumber, and if you put him in polka dots, it only made him better, kinda. He wrestled most famously for the NWA and its territories. He would wrestle and book for a good chunk of his career at a 3-time NWA World TV Champion, and of course he is a decorated belt holder of many, many belts, gaining on the mic like no other, could wrestle, and he could dance. Outsiders looking in would never guess by looking at his picture that he is one of the gold standards of what a wrestler can be, no matter the physical looks, if you will. He gets my vote right away. I don't even have to think of it. Even though, yes, Steven Regal, I loved him as a TV title holder. I was just kind of started watching WCW on a more regular basis, and that's when I think Lord Steven Regal was the best, is when he came in, the way he did, the manager he had. It was dry, but he was entertaining in the ring. But Dusty Rhodes, any belt that he held, you believed. Even if you never seen wrestling before, you look at the guy and you go, there's no way he could last 5 minutes in the ring. Watch one match. Okay, yeah, fine. He's awesome. So for me, it's Dusty Rhodes. A little favoritism, but I don't give a shit. Dusty Rhodes.
That's okay. So just looking at some of their title reigns, Dusty Rhodes.
Oh, yeah, you might want to say that. Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, Dusty Rhodes, March 16th, 1985, 43 days from Tully, and lost it back to Tully. On July 6th, 1985, 105 days, won it back from Tully, and had vacated due to injury. And September 9th, 1986, 79 days from Arn Anderson, and lost it to Tully Blanchard. So his TV title reigns, once again, were all involved with that war with the Horsemen, and especially with Tully and Arn. Steven Regal, September 19th, 1993, 225 days from Ricky Steamboat, lost it to Larry Zbyszko. Won it back from Larry Zbyszko on June 23rd, 94, held it for 87 days, lost it to Johnny B. Batt. Third title reign, August 20th, 96, for 181 days, lost it to Luger, or from Luger, and lost it to Prince Iaukea. And then his fourth and final one was May 18th, 1997, 65 days from Ultimo Dragon, but then dropped it back to Ultimo Dragon. Just that combined, and looking at 225 days, where in that era they were using that match every week, and whether it went to time limit draw or whatever, it was happening every week, and you were seeing a TV title defense. I'm going to go with Steven Regal. You mentioned his butler, Sir William, which was Bill Dundee. Really good combination with Regal and Dundee. And so that's where he did my vote.
Numbers on his last title reign again? Sorry.
His last title reign was 65 days, May 18th, 97, and with Ultimo Dragon. So, Steven, you're breaking the tie.
Oh, it's Lord Steven Regal. Dusty Rhodes, I just never bought him as a TV champion. I felt like when he was chasing that title, it's because he didn't want to lose to Flair anymore. So,
and when you're the booker,
yeah. So to me, Regal was the epitome of who you would want as a TV champion. He could fight anyone, and he could make anyone eventually. And usually you found them going through Steven Regal to get to the next level, which would be the US champ, to then get on to the next level. So, I mean, Regal was my pick.
Yeah, he was sort of like a gatekeeper in a way of like you would see Shawn Waltman or even Val Venus, where if they could get past them, then they could go up the ladder.
Yeah, I mean, Dusty, if we were talking careers start to finish, that'd be different because Dusty's Dusty. But for the TV championship, he just, and to me, it never looked right with Dusty.
Yep.
So I've got the next one, which is Booker T versus Paul Jones, I believe, right? I've got the next one, right?
No, that's mine, and then you're Flair and Anderson.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just distracted.
Understandable. So our next one is Booker T versus Paul Jones. I need to use Jonesy's cheat sheet quickly for Booker T because I didn't write this one down this morning. I missed it. So Booker T, 6'3", 256 pounds, started in '89. He's retired off and on, but his first TV title was December 29th, 1997. Held it for 49 days, winning it from Disco Inferno, losing it to Rick Martel. Then he got it back February 22nd, 1998, held it for 67 days, got it from Martel, but dropped it to Chris Benoit. Then May 1st, 1998, he held it for 1 day and just basically back and forth with Benoit, lost it to him. May 3rd, won it back from Benoit, lost it to Fit Finlay. He held it, I guess, for another 1 day. Then June 14th, 1998, he held it for 30 days, beating Finlay and lost it to his brother, Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray defended it on behalf of Booker and lost it to Chris Jericho. So his brother ended up stepping in and doing that job, unfortunately, and lost it to Chris Jericho after 30 days. March 4th, 1999, 56 days, winning it from Scott Steiner, but losing it to Rick Steiner. And so he had it for 6 times with a combined total of 204 days. Now over to Paul Jones. He held the title for 5 occasions. First title reign was July 8th, 1974 for 108 days. Won it from Ivan Koloff, but lost it back to Ivan Koloff. Then December 26th, 1974, held it for 44 days, beating Ivan Koloff for it and losing it to Ric Flair. So heated competition and feud with Ivan Koloff during that time. His third title reign was August 8th, 1975, held it for 117 days, winning it from Ric Flair, and vacated it when he won the NWA Mid-Atlantic U.S. title on November 27th, 1975. I guess the NWA had a rule where you could only hold 1 title at a time and had to vacate the lesser of the 2, obviously. His fourth title reign, June 30th, 1976, held it for 42 days and won it from Angelo Mosca, but lost it to Angelo Mosca. And his fifth and final one was June 7th, 1978, 368 days, and won it from Baron von Raschke and lost it to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Now, looking at the dates, clearly I was not around really when Paul Jones was doing the start of his TV title reigns. I was born just before his 4th one. So seeing Paul Jones, I can't really evaluate. I'm only going by the numbers here. As much as I like Booker T, the numbers speak for himself. I have to go with Paul Jones.
Yeah. Again, I'm also with you. I'm a huge Booker T fan. Booker T drew Paul Jones. He was the third person to ever hold the TV title. And yes, back in the NWA Mid-Atlantic JCP, you could only hold one title at a time. It was up to you at the time which one you were going to hold. So obviously when you win the US title, it's closer to the world title. That's why he kept that one. Paul Jones 5 times held it for 579 days. That it's nowadays that would be unheard of. Holding a title for 368 days alone.
Not happening.
Well, look at Booker T. 67, 1, 30, 56. Like, he just didn't have they just played a lot of hot potato with it. So, Jonesy?
Yeah, it's a sweep. Paul Jones gets it for me. He was also known as Mr. Wrestling. He was a master wrestler. And he was in the plane crash with Ric Flair that day, and he was the only babyface that was actually on that plane. The rest of them were bad guys. Anyways, that's what I got on him.
He actually, so when he went to the hospital, when they found him, he actually put the mask on. So people, I only know that from Jim Cornette's stories, and but yeah, he put the mask on so no one would know it was him until he was in his own private room, basically. And then he went to the arena that night or the next day, and they said he was jumped. That's why he was hurt. They did an injury angle. No one ever knew until years later that he was in the plane crash. And that's kind of where his career ended, because he actually ended up becoming a manager, Paul Jones's Army, in WCCW, world class out of Texas.
You sure you didn't live out in the down in the States there? You know an awful lot about the South.
Oh, that's the South.
You watched a lot of that wrestling growing up?
No, well, yeah, but no, that just is what hooked me. The WWE, WWF at the time was very cartoonish, and it was good, but it wasn't not. I just never really bought it. But if you watched old JCP or Mid-Atlantic or UWF, they didn't really have the characters, but you just were like, did he just, like, you bought it. You actually thought,
yeah, the wrestling was better in the ring.
Yeah, and it looked real, quote unquote. It just looked.
Well, yeah, it's easier to look real when you got a tough looking masked guy kicking another tough guy, where on the other side, you know, you got these huge Samoans with foofy hair, you know.
I mean, but if you look at the Samoans in NWA, you would have been like, how the hell did they become the head shrinkers? They went from the Samoan SWAT team, which, yes, were they ever a top team? No, but they were up there, to a goofy gimmick. There's a lot of guys. If you Hacksaw Jim Duggan, if you watch him in Mid-South to what he became, you'd be like, the hell? Ernie Ladd.
Turned everyone into cartoons.
What?
WWF turned everyone into cartoons.
Yeah, if Jonesy, you would really like Mid-South. Even Butch Reed. I know he just passed away, but if you look at him in Mid-South before what he became in WWE, you just would be like, what happened to these people?
Well, it's the same as Coco Beware. Down south, yeah. He had a different career than the fact of being the Birdman in WWE, and people wonder why he's in the Hall of Fame, but they got to look back on what he did beforehand.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm a huge Jim Cornette Midnight Express, but like, if you watched, you could sit there and watch their tag matches, and it's magic. It's what wrestling hooked me as a kid. Yes, the WWE would hook me with like The Undertaker, because that was just like, what is that? But I mean, that's just me. Yeah, I'm a huge Southern old school wrestling fan. That's why this one I really thought was unique.
Mhm.
So
Well,
I will go on to
first round,
which would be Ric Flair versus Arn Anderson. Ric Flair was the sixth person to hold this title. First title reign, February 8th of 75. He beat Paul Jones, held it for 181 days, losing it back to Paul Jones. His second title reign was April 4th of 77. He beat Rufus R. Jones and held it for 72 days, losing it to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, which would be the start of eventually their classic series. Flair held it 2 times for 253 days. Arn Anderson, first title reign, July 4th of 86, he defeated Wahoo McDaniels in the finals of a tournament, held it for 248 days, vacated it due to injury. Dusty Rhodes vacated due to injury, losing it back to Dusty Rhodes. His second title reign, January 2nd of 1990, he beat the Great Muta, held it for 336 days, losing it to the Z-Man. Third title reign, January 7th of 91. That's when it was renamed to WCW. Beat the Z-Man, held it for 132 days, lost it to Bobby Eaton. You wouldn't think the Z-Man had great matches until you watch him with Arn Anderson. Last, he wins it January 8th of 95, beating Johnny B. Bad, holds it for 161 days, losing it to the Renegade. Arn held it for 4 times for 877 days. He held that title the most out of anyone. Don't get me wrong, Ric Flair, great, and it kickstarted his career winning the TV title. But Arn Anderson, anyone who thinks of WCW, NWA TV title, you think automatically Arn Anderson. So it's Arn to me. He held it 877 days, which is insanity.
Jonesy.
Yeah, I mean, Ric Flair is great and all, but I mean, enough said. Arn Anderson, one of his reigns outdoes Ric Flair reign. So it's Arn Anderson. I'll talk more about him in the later rounds, how great he is.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely Arn Anderson as well. I don't associate Ric Flair with that title. You think Ric Flair, you think the 16 world championships that he had. You barely even think of any U.S. title reigns that he had and stuff like that. It's always the 16 and give or take a few dozen other non-acknowledged title reigns. But you don't think TV title and Ric Flair. So Arn Anderson, clean sweep, which lets us look at what happened in the first round.
So we had Ricky the Dragon Steamboat beat Sting 3-0. Nikita Koloff beat Jimmy Valiant 2-1. Johnny B. Bad beat Ivan Koloff 3-0. Tully Blanchard beat Stunning Steve Austin 3-0. Mike Rotunda beat Baron Von Raschke 3-0. Lord Steven Regal beat Dusty Rhodes 2-1. Paul Jones beat Booker T 3-0. And Arn Anderson beat Ric Flair 3-0. Setting up our second round of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Nikita Koloff. Johnny B. Bad versus Tully Blanchard. Mike Rotunda versus Lord Steven Regal. And Paul Jones versus Arn Anderson. I mean, round 1 was pretty much how I had it play out. I actually had Paul Jones winning 2-1 because I figured someone would throw Booker a pity vote, but To me, that's how it should have broken out.
The numbers spoke loud for this one, just especially in the first round. It was surprising in a way because, as you pointed out, Paul Jones and Booker T almost the same amount of title reigns, but the days spoke for it more so than anything. Jonesy?
Well, Ricky Steamboat has it easy for the next round. That's all I can say. Is that where we're going?
Yes, we can start the second round with Ricky Steamboat against Nikita Koloff.
Well, I can waste a bunch of words, so I will. Ricky Steamboat's just, I mean, if you watched him, especially during Saturday night when Jesse the Body was calling his matches, it was just great TV. Nikita Koloff, to me, he was more going after the big belts, not so much this one. And really, Ricky Steamboat matches are just better to watch. So Ricky for me.
Yeah, I'm going to be going Ricky Steamboat as well. I like Nikita Koloff, but just the matches that Steamboat put on, longer title reigns, it was spread out over time as well. So he actually was part of different generations. Steven?
I'm going Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, but Jonesy, go back and watch Nikita Koloff versus anyone in the Horsemen pre-injury, and you'll see someone who you're like, oh, I get it now. Because he was, before the injuries caught up to him and before, he hit some...
I remember more his look and everything than I do his wrestling ability.
Is he going to be a great wrestler? Are you going to see great super matches? No, but before he hits the gas and before he breaks his neck, and really that was the end of him. I mean, he still wrestled after, but it was never the same because he got on the gas. Yes, watch anything pre-injury before. You'll be like, how did this happen? It's very, a lot of these guys, it's sad what happens to them.
So it's a clean sweep for Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And so he is out of this tournament, which brings us to the next matchup. And that is Johnny B. Bad taking on Tully Blanchard. This one's a hard one for me because I think Tully was a better worker and obviously held it longer. But Johnny B. Bad fit that time, as I said when talking about him beforehand, where he was the reason, the guy who opened things, and they could rely on him. Even though he was a cartoon, between the bells, it was a different story. But I'm going to go with Tully Blanchard.
Oh, this was easy. Tully held it. I mean, don't get me wrong, Johnny B. Bad was great, but Tully Blanchard held that title for 685 days. He was facing greats in their prime, like Jay Youngblood, Dusty Rhodes, Nikita Koloff before Koloff gets hurt. Johnny B. Bad was great. Yes, he always opened WCW pay-per-views before the cruiserweights came in. And he did have some good matches with Regal and Anderson, but you can see, unfortunately, he was in the late 95, early 96 WCW where you can tell where they were starting to play some hot potato, unfortunately, and not the good, great match, and just happens to title change happens. It was, we need we need this guy to have a belt, so give him a belt. Like, it just wasn't consistent. So Tully for sure, just too much, too big of a resume there.
If Johnny B. Bad could have had another reign that lasted more than a couple of days, or one of his 3 reigns was longer than Johnny B. Bad easy, because the character that he had and he made it work. And that's a part of that wrestling where you look at most of these guys that held this belt. There's not a lot of guys that had like a gimmick more than, you know, a nickname or something. So Bad, to me, is one of the best TV champions, but he didn't hold it long enough. You look at all these numbers, the 2 reigns that he had, and then, sorry, the 3 reigns he had, and the one in the middle is only 69, but the other ones get up to that big total of almost 700 days. So Tully Blanchard.
There we go. So a clean sweep for Tully. Moving on to the second part, and that's Captain Mike Rotunda taking on Lord Steven Regal.
Now this one gets a lot more complicated and close, because you have Lord Steven Regal 3 reigns, total of 493 days, and then you have Mike Rotunda 3 reigns and 401 days. And Mike Rotunda's big long reign was 335, and Regal, 225, 101 or 181 and 87. I'm going Lord Steven Regal only because if you look at the 3 reigns, Rotunda's got the smallest of the 3 reigns of 39 days. They're very similar in their reigns. Both could go. So I'm going Lord Steven Regal just because if you could see him as a TV champion. So I'm going Lord Steven Regal because I really think next round it won't matter who wins this one. So
Jonesy.
Yeah, they're both close, but Mike Rotundo gets it for me. That belt, again, he's never going to get the world belt, but a TV belt, that's good TV. Having a guy like that on. Regal is just as good, but Rotundo had that kind of schoolboy gimmick where Lord Steven Regal was drier than Rotunda, which is pretty hard to do. So I'm just going with Rotunda on it because he did have a big, long 335-day reign, which triples any of Lord Steven Regal's reign. Oh, except for, sorry, the first one. So I'll just take that back and flush it down the toilet. Whoosh, whoosh. But I'm still going to give it to Mike Rotunda and let Shawn decide.
Well, their total days combined are very close between the two. And I just picture Lord Steven Regal with the belt more so than Captain Mike. I saw Mike Rotunda more, sadly enough, either as a tag team guy or, I hate to say it, a jobber when he was in WCW more so than actual contender. Just that was my view of him, because when I saw him,
go back and watch him in the Varsity Club with Rick Steiner and Kevin Sullivan.
But that's where I'm saying I saw him more as a tag team in that regards of being there with that faction, and then he was with the Alexander York Foundation and stuff like that. So that's where I unfortunately see him that way. But yeah, I am going with Lord Steven Regal to move on, and he will face the winner of Paul Jones and Arn Anderson.
Is it me?
Let's see. I believe yes. I lost track. Me. No, it's Jonesy.
Okay, yeah, because I got really confused there for a second.
Yeah. No, it's Jonesy.
Oh, right, it's me. Back to Paul Jones and Arn Anderson. Paul Jones, he had it 5 times for 579 days, and Arn Anderson had it 4 times, but he's got a whopping 877. However, it's not as tough as I'd like to make it, but Arn Anderson, I don't know, that he lost it to Renegade at the end. That kind of, the guy lost to Renegade. Poor bastard. But Arn Anderson, I don't know who's going to stop him. Maybe Paul Jones if we knew even more about him. Because, God, he went up against some tough guys, but so did Arn Anderson. First time he won it was against Wahoo McDaniel. That's pretty impressive. So I got to go with Anderson.
Well, I'm sending Arn Anderson to the semifinals. He is in the final 4. Like you said, Jonesy, if we knew more about Paul Jones, but there was a lot of different feuds with Arn Anderson, as regrettable that he did have that Renegade instance, but when Hogan and Jimmy Hart and all them are around, not much he can do. And they were trying to make him into the next Ultimate Warrior. But yeah, Arn Anderson is moving on. Paul Jones is probably the only one who, especially in the bottom half, had a chance to take out Arn Anderson. Is it a clean sweep?
Yeah, Paul Jones, good wrestler, even better manager, even though his guys, when he had the Paul Jones army, was always feuding with the Von Erichs, which unfortunately got hurt. He doesn't get hurt, and in that plane crash, things change. But Arn Anderson has 800 plus days, so yeah, I'm going Arn Anderson. It's a clean sweep.
So, just a cap before going into our semifinals.
So we had Ricky the Dragon Steamboat beat Nikita Koloff 3-0. Tully Blanchard beat Johnny B. Bad 3-0. Lord Steven Regal beat Mike Rotunda 2-1. And Arn Anderson beat Paul Jones 3-0, setting up our semifinals of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Tully Blanchard and Lord Steven Regal versus the Enforcer, Arn Anderson. Anyone's got any surprises from? Unfortunately, Paul Jones drew a shitty second round, like the way the brackets broke out. Because if you have Paul Jones in the top, I think the finals is that match to me.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, Paul Jones is the only person that somewhat had a chance. But what about if Anderson was in the top? Is there anybody in that top 8 that could have taken out Anderson?
Arn? No, I don't think so. My final 4. Well, 3 out of the final 4 for me are here. I didn't have Ricky the Dragon coming this far. I expected Sting, you guys to vote for, or have Nikita, but there's no one except someone in the top who I think could challenge him, but we'll see.
Yep. Jonesy, your thoughts on the Final Four and how it shook out?
You know what, I think Arn Anderson is going to win the whole thing. I don't see who can stop him. Like 877 days, 4 reigns. So, I mean, he just outdoes everyone.
Yeah, well, let's then dive into the semifinals and see what happens. First semifinal matchup is going to see Ricky the Dragon Steamboat against Tully Blanchard. Both had long title reigns. You got Tully Blanchard with over 600 days, and Ricky Steamboat is here.
314.
Yeah. So looking at these, Tully Blanchard definitely moves on, in my case, to go to the finals. Steven?
Again, if we were talking longevity of career and talking career in total, we'd be talking a different person. But for a TV title, Ricky the Dragon, it did what it needed to for him to move him up the card to the U.S. and the world title picture. And for Tully, it took him from up to the U.S. picture. So for me, it's Tully. He had the belt for 685 days. So this is part one of what I had as the finale. So,
And Jonesy.
Well, kind of looking at Steamboat here. I mean, yeah, if you're betting on a horse race, you go with Tully Blanchard. But I'm going with Steamboat only because I'd rather watch Steamboat than Tully Blanchard. Tully Blanchard, he's definitely entertaining, great in the ring, but there's something about him that I'm not sad if I miss his match. If I was at a live event, I would be no problem going to the bathroom when he's there compared to when Steamboat's there. To me, Steamboat, again, any belt he holds, he makes important. Where Tully, if he held a world belt, like a major world belt, people would go, what the fuck? So I got to go with Ricky on this because even though a lot of his reigns were short, I'm sure the ratings for him were a hell of a lot higher than they were for Tully Blanchard.
Okay. So Tully Blanchard, though, still moves on. And our other semifinal is Lord Steven Regal taking on the Enforcer, Arn Anderson. Steven.
I love Lord Steven Regal, so don't get me wrong. I think Lord Steven Regal was an amazing person and great for the time, but he's facing Arn Anderson, unfortunately. So I'm going Arn Anderson. It's how do you compete with Arn Anderson? So
yeah, Jonesy.
I'm kind of pondering. Because Steven Regal only had 3 reigns compared to Arn's 4, and he never lost the Renegade. I'm so confident that Arn Anderson is going to go through that I'm going to vote for Steven Regal because he does deserve the vote and at least get a tiebreaker. Because, I mean, he held it for almost 500 days with only the 3 reigns, and he had to fight guys like Zbyszko. I mean, come on, Anderson had Z-Man and Bobby Eaton and Renegade. Of course, I'm skipping all the good guys he had to go against, but hey, that's what I'm doing. So you can decide the tie.
Well, it's going to Arn Anderson, putting the Brainbusters together in the finals. 2 guys who are managers now in AEW and considered one of the best tag teams ever, with 2-1 victories going into the finals.
Yeah, I mean, this was what I had as my finals. I think these two were probably who deserve to be here. So I'm excited to see where you guys go and if I have to break the tie or not.
Jonesy, you get to start this one because it is our finals with the Brainbusters.
It is. So Arn Anderson, he's 255 pounds, 6'1", and Tully is 5'10" at 225 pounds. Arn Anderson got it 4 times, defeating some people like Wahoo. He lost to the Rhodes, won it from Muda, lost it to Z-Man, won it from Z-Man, lost it to Eaton, and then got it from Bad and lost it to Renegade. Over to good old Tully Blanchard. He had it 3 times for a total of 685. Arn's was a total of 877. Tully won it from Youngblood, lost it to Rhodes, hot potatoed it with Rhodes on his second turn, and then for his third, he won it from Rhodes and lost it to Koloff. Either one of these guys is great to have the belt. They're both entertaining, even though, yes, I would go to the bathroom if Blanchard was on, and I probably would have gone to the bathroom if Anderson was on when I was a kid, not now. So, you know what? Tully Blanchard gets it for me, even though Anderson is probably going to win it, which is fine with me. But Tully is good, and he had some great feuds. Very much like Arn, he was in a lot of main events, but he was never the headliner. Neither one of these guys was, but that was okay. That was what their job was. They're the glue that held everything together. So I'm going with the guy that's shorter. And I think he had the longer career, but they're still both making names for themselves in the business. So I'm going with Tully, and I will shut up.
Well, looking at numbers, 3 title reigns, 4 title reigns, 353 days, 263 days, 248 days, 363 days, 123, and 161. I'm going Arn Anderson. Steven gets to break the tie. And the win goes to...
And he can't just do this because it won't work.
I mean, that's the scary part is these two made this what it was.
Look what the reigns are together. Together. They pretty much add up to all these other guys.
I know, which is insane. Because before they started playing hot potatoes, they actually did the proper thing with these titles. But Tully was great, but he was better as a... Oh, for fuck's sake, this is not the one I wanted. He was a better U.S. champ. Arn, I think, is a better TV champ. And does he not have his own...
I don't think he had his own music.
Arn Anderson. He always used the Horseman theme, which actually I kind of appreciate more and more. And then combine these two into a tag team takes them even to a crazier level, these two. I would have loved to see what would have happened when they left the WWE if Jim Herd doesn't screw it up and let them both come back to WCW. NWA and reunite the Horsemen. So it's Arn.
The demon of Tully's past and the reason why he wasn't with WWE any longer caused the issue there. And so we would actually never really see Tully resurface again. I don't recall seeing Tully doing anything until he showed up with AEW just recently.
he ended up just basically going to Texas and wrestling in his dad's promotion for Joe Blanchard. And then
he was in that pay-per-view a long time ago there that didn't make money, that had the Drunk Jake the Snake and all that. He was in that. He actually looked pretty good.
Yeah, I think I remember that, but he wasn't definitely mainstream. Anderson stayed mainstream, and then we know when WCW folded, he had a long career doing agent work in WWE, and now he's outside of Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, Arn or Tully basically, after being with his dad's promotion, he had a little brief run when the UWF was around. He made, I think, a few shows up in the AWA, but he basically stuck to his dad's promotion. I can't think of the name. He was basically the head booker there. He made himself world champ. But Arn Anderson was what the TV title was made for. He made countless people. If you look at the people he was facing, he made a lot of guys. I don't think Johnny B. Bad would be as believable to us as a TV champ without him facing Arn Anderson.
Well, even Alex Wright, I think, went against him and stuff like that.
Hell, he made the Renegade look capable.
Very true. So,
hey, just a little bit on Tully's father, Joe Blanchard. I did not know he played for the Edmonton Eskimos in the CFL. He played in the Grey Cup, and I didn't know he was actually a professional wrestler as well. And of course, promoter. I'm looking for that company he owned. Texas Hard Star Wrestling, perhaps.
Yes, that's what it was, and that's where Tully basically went and became booker. And I mean, I'm sure he made shots in and around Texas, but.
And can you believe these people that do a podcast, like, say, 40 years ago, when they had something they wanted to look, there was no Google.
No.
There's no podcast 40 years ago there, champ.
There was a radio. It's pretty much the same damn thing.
Dave Meltzer dirt sheets. But, yeah, so now Tully Blanchard is also the father of the hottest free agent in women's wrestling with Tessa, not knowing where she's going to end up landing. Once again, congratulations to Arn Anderson for defeating the other 15 competitors in this. Before we check out, you guys got anything to plug?
Keep watching CWNonline.ca. This week's Slugging with Stephen O'Neill featuring the endorsement, Sebastian Suave. Super good, super insightful. So again, it's CWNonline.ca, Slugging with Stephen O'Neill featuring this week the endorsement, Sebastian Suave. Very cool guy. So I was excited for that one.
Excellent. And Jonesy, what do you got coming up tomorrow at noon?
Tomorrow at noon would be the wrestling history. This week we are looking at February 5th, I think, or something. I don't know the date. Yeah, February 5th to the 12th. And also with this show, if anyone wants to join, because we like to have more than 3, we do have cheat sheets that are made up so that if you do want to join but don't want to do a lot of research or not sure about remembering numbers, don't worry. We can hook you up with that if you want to participate. And one of us might want to take a night off one time, so.
True. So, yeah, we're always open for business, and whoever would like to join us, there's seats available. Preferably if we have an odd number, which makes it great for doing the voting, so we don't have to figure out how we would ever do a tiebreaker. But yeah, we definitely welcome other voices on here, and yeah, if you want to make this more entertaining, if you're certain somebody who likes to shall we say invade podcasts saying that you're boring, you can help liven things up. But speaking of that podcast, tomorrow night at 8 p.m., we are going to be back with Scumbags Wrestling episode number 141. News of the week, including unfortunate passing of Hacksaw Butch Reed. And, of course, we're going to look at the upcoming card for NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day. And so that's basically what's going to happen there. And that's happening tomorrow on Twitch, YouTube, and on Facebook. Plus, of course, wherever you get your podcasts from, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, we're available everywhere. So please feel free to join us, and we'll address comments, concerns, and give you an open forum if you want to join us as well. So until next time. Oh, Steven, what are we doing next week?
Oh, that is... Which one are we doing? We have two. I don't remember which one we're doing. Are we doing Impact next?
Yes.
All right. We're doing the greatest TNA Impact World Champions. Sorry, I have to pull that up because I had the other one.
Yeah, no problem.
I had us doing... So you are going to see matchups. If I can hold on 1 second, because I had it the other way, but that's fine. So the greatest TNA championship champions is from when it broke off with the NWA to current day. You're going to see the matchups are Samoa Joe, Bully Ray, Bobby Lashley, RVD, Drew Galloway or Drew McIntyre versus Johnny Impact or John Morrison, AJ Styles, Eli Drake, Ethan Carter III and Bobby Roode, Magnus, Eddie Edwards, Kurt Angle, Austin Aries, Sting, and Eric Young. So next week will be interesting.
Yeah, it's doing a little bit of our comfort zone because we haven't really, I don't think all of us watch Impact on a regular basis. I've attended Impact shows, and watched it a little bit at the beginning, drop off and come back and forth. So I'm aware of what's going on, but not hardcore like I would be with WCW and WWE, WWF over the years. So this will be a little bit interesting, maybe having to look up a couple matches on YouTube and stuff. Jonesy, your thoughts before we go?
Bully Ray, I personally, I liked him a hell of a lot better in TNA than I did in WWF. He showed that he can be a main eventer, given the right circumstances. He was a bully, and he was great at it on that whole thing. Aces and eights, as silly as the faction was, having him the leader was just great. I really enjoyed Bully Ray. He finally got his due.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I think Bully Ray should have gotten a Bully Ray run in the WWE. I mean, it still could happen. I would be surprised. But I mean, there's some guys. I mean, I don't know if AJ Styles is AJ Styles without TNA. Same thing for Samoa Joe.
Yeah, as far as Bully Ray goes, he was on Chris Van Fleet and wanted to bring Bully Ray to the WWE. Vince loved the idea. He had actually seen Bully Ray, but because of their Be a Star campaign, how do you have somebody as a bully on there? All right, and that was the determining factor why Bully Ray never happened.
I mean, they could do it now.
Yeah, especially the older he gets, the better it will be because he can be a manager who's a bully who gets other people to do his bidding, but eventually he'll be forced to go in the ring. So, yeah, that could still work.
So we'll talk about all that next week. And
No,
we'll
we're
run
talking
down.
about it now.
Well, we gotta save something for next week. We'll check out the TNA Impact Championship next week on Fantasy Warfare Tournament. So until next time, have a good one.
Peace.